And welcome to the October 26th meeting of the Budget Committee. Call to order, please. And roll call, please, Carrie.
Sabrina Albert, Christia Claire,
Here.
Kathy Consalvo, Sierra Dulce,
Here.
Julie Hammond, Liz Costa,
Here.
Michael Mascola,
Here.
Sue Sherman,
Here.
Karen White, here, Mark Sherwood.
Here.
I'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Sarah, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
I knew you were gonna ask me. I had a feeling. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If we can take a moment before we sit back down. Moment of silence for the families up in Lewiston, Maine. Thank you. We have a really long agenda tonight, you can see from our agenda, so I'm gonna ask if we can slide right into things and get going. So approval of minutes we have from the October, I believe it's 12th. Got 'em?
I will.
Should be under here. As always, nice minutes if you didn't have a chance to look at them earlier. I'll entertain a motion, put it on the floor.
I'll make the motion.
Thanks, Liz.
You're welcome.
Second,
I'll second it.
is that Christie down there?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Take my glasses off to read and then I can't really see who you are. So Christie makes the second. Anything glaring to anybody, changes, corrections? Any discussion?
You're good.
If not, I'm gonna call for a vote. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Opposed? None. Abstentions? 1, 701. Thank you, Carrie. Okay, where are we? Yeah, correspondence. Any correspondence anyone has received on the committee? Getting some feedback here. Or is it just me?
It's sitting in that seat, you got it.
I'm hearing voices.
No, I hear the sound too, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you get a lot of feedback.
It's like the AC system.
That's better. That's better, Dean. Thank you. Anybody get any correspondence? Anything at your offices?
No.
Nothing?
Nothing in the email.
If not, we'll move on. Delegates and individuals. Do we have anyone who wants to speak to us tonight? Come on up if you do. I'd ask you to state your name and your address for our records and the town you live in. And I'll remind the committee here, we're not gonna have a discussion. We're here to hear at this level what the concerns are. And Mr. Sapir, I'm gonna give you 3-4 minutes. Hopefully you
Mr.
can
Sapir.
get
Wow.
through that.
Well, first of all, I wanna thank the budget committee for all your hard work. I know this isn't easy and you're putting your time and dedicate yourself to the district, so thank you. It's also nice to see some new faces on the board. It's not that I don't like the old faces, it's that it's great that everyone's trying to take a turn. Now after buttering you all up, I'm here in my capacity as the simple resident that I am. Over the years, I have always kind of struggled with the way we do facilities, and something that I kind of dug into and looked at, and it's not for an action today or tomorrow, or probably not even until after the budget season. But a lot of government and municipal agencies base their facility spending on a formula. And I thought this formula / template is a good way, because I heard it at a budget committee not too long ago, that no one kind of quite knows what we're doing. So basically what it is it's based on the total appraised value of our assets. And for example, what the example they gave, that they cited in this article, and I will send this on to Sue, is that 3% of your total assessed value of your buildings will go into your day-to-day operations, your custodial work, your lawnmowers, that kind of stuff. 2%, and that percentage could change based on what the budget committee and the school board, might I add, the highly efficient and effective school board. So 3% goes into that. Roughly 2% goes into, medium ranged projects like replacing a vehicle or fixing hardware, painting buildings at the end of the year. And then 1% goes into a long range investments, HVAC units, new roofs. And the only thing I'll share with you when it comes to that is, obviously we found ourselves with a little bump in the road. We hadn't been investing properly in the maintenance of our buildings. And, just the other night, we had a construction meeting, and I sat there and I listened to all the HVAC units we have to put on top of our buildings now. The reality is, I reached out to somebody, I said, boy, that's a lot of money. And he said, well, Jack, these have reached end of life. But what you need to consider is that if one of those fails, it's a catastrophe. It's catastrophic, and there's about a 24-week lead time to replace that. So if we're not keeping up with what we do, we're gonna find ourselves in one of those situations at some point in time. Now, I think we're effectively doing that now. All I'm suggesting to the budget committee is at some point in time in the future, consider some type of model or template like that addresses long-range investments, so the district and the public can be mentally and financially prepared to, everyone will know what the left hand will know what the right hand is doing. So just consider that. That was the only thing I wanted to talk to you about tonight, but thank you again for your time and energy, and I'll see you guys on the 14th and then deliberative session.
Thank you, Jack.
And good luck. Everyone should be at the soccer game on Sunday at noontime.
So let the record, so that was Jack Sapie from Atkinson.
Did I not say that?
No, but
I never do it.
fine, I was happy to introduce you. The budgets that we heard on October 12th, right? Are there anybody have any questions that came as a result of those presentations that you didn't think to or get a chance to ask? That was the 4 elementary, and 5 elementary if you wish, Atkinson, Danville, Pollard, TLC, it's Sandown Central in Sandown, New Hampshire, and Sandown North Elementary. Did anybody have any, remember I have a, thank you, Carrie, a budget sheet that we've prepared just to keep kind of a running list of who we've heard, the variances, so you can kind of see where we're at. Was there any specific questions? You can wait, you can ask them later, we can call any principal back or any department head that we want to see back. Anything jump out at you? If not, I'm gonna move on tonight, but again, as you peruse things, if it jumps out at you, give a holler, send me an email, send Carrie and I an email, send Mike, me, and Carrie, whatever you'd like to do, and we'll make sure that we try to get those questions answered. Although I like to have them asked in public, I really think that's our charge is to ask those questions in a public forum. Okay, if not, we're going to go to our administrative report. Mr. Superintendent, anything you'd like to give us for information tonight, Justin?
I would absolutely like to share 3 quick things, but I want to keep in mind your previous statement. We have 4 important presentations to hear tonight, so most of the time we'll kind of get there. But 3 awesome things to share. This past week, we had 50 seniors apply for free to 130 colleges throughout the state. That's with a regional assistance program here. So it's a long-standing thing. We're gonna continue to hope to kind of open those doors for kids. But it's just part of a larger day and a larger push over at the high school. So those are really awesome numbers to report. On the transportation front, we are doing well, and I just wanted to let First Student just know publicly that they've done a good job continuing to hire staff. They are on the precipitous incline there, if you wanna look at it that way. They're net positive right now, they continue to stay net positive, and their future projection over the months are to remain there as well. So we're getting to a place where we're fairly fully staffed at the transportation front, and really hope that's having an impact on kids and ride times on the opposite end of those things. And lastly, what I'd share is parent conferences. We're in our school buildings up through grade 8 this past week. I was in 2 of those buildings at Danville and the middle school, and hearing from the staff and the admin team. Thanks, Mr. Messens, for your visit and your kind of tour over there. What I'm hearing from parents that I talk to and staff are 2 things, and they're the same things. One is it's not enough time. And the second is, even though it's not enough time, the face-to-face time is just so incredibly important and valuable. So it just reinforces that fact that anytime that we have opportunities to sit with people, parents, guardians, you have opportunities to sit with teachers, sit with administrators, take that opportunity first before we are regulating ourselves to phone calls and emails. It's so much more productive, it's so much more meaningful to have those face-to-face interactions. I think that's why both sides value that conference time as it sits. And I'll close there. Sue, if I could.
Thank you. Reports of committees. I have nothing special to report except tomorrow night is senior night for band and football and cheer. And I'm looking forward to that, since I have a senior grandson that I'm very proud of. So come over and watch the game and enjoy Friday Night Lights at our beautiful field. I sat up in the SAU last week, trained my car so I could see the 50-yard line, and I got there just as Tim Mullane scored and heard the fight song, and it was great and it was exciting and the kids were excited. It looked like a good crowd, so go down and participate in those things. And there's plenty to do. Soccer, there's always something to do here on the campus. Anything that the budget committee wants to come up with? Nothing? You haven't left your neighborhood? If not, we'll jump right into our presentations. We asked that the CIP is going to be presented to us tonight. Now, before I ask Ken to step up, Ken and Jack are co-chairs. This budget, or this list of recommendations that's the CIP, isn't a separate budget request. So I'm gonna ask Kerry, we'll make that.
My bad.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's okay. It's not, it's a sizable number, but that number is going to be in other budgets. It's gonna be in probably facilities or it's elsewhere. It's not a standalone budget. It's absorbed elsewhere. But what the CIP committee tries to do is show us, and we'll show the school board too, what the recommended projects are. So you should have, it's a 1-page, right?
It's 1-pager, yep.
Yeah.
It should be in your packet.
That shows the amount of money that the CIP is recommending be put in the 24-25 budget for projects. Is that correct?
That is correct, yep.
Alright.
So this represents capital projects only. That will be against the capital budget, which is roughly 1.8 million. Does not include regular budget items such as technology. Carl has a regular budget as well, but it's outside of capital. Those are the lease is not included. Those lease items from the $25 million lease are not included in this, as well as any proposed warrant articles. So this is just strictly that $1.8 million capital budget line.
And so this is going into the budget. This is not including any warrant articles that the school board might, any projects, okay.
Correct, the
Everybody get
1.8
that?
million is there. This is recommendations on how to spend that 1.8 million.
How you should, yeah,
So
how
that's what
the
this,
school boards should spend the money.
how the school board should spend it, correct, yeah. So we met twice in the spring, twice in the fall, and we vetted the projects that were recommended by the administration. We put into a schedule, so there's we look out 5 years, we're looking at projects that are 30K or more. And then we recommend what year to place them in, and this is the projects that we recommend based on, priorities into next year's budget.
Did you wanna go, we're gonna hear.
Yeah, maybe we could talk about it,
Yeah, when we hear the facilities budget, then the facilities directors will be here and we can ask those questions. Not that Ken doesn't understand, and
I'm an
Mark
expert on
and-
all this stuff,
yeah,
walls,
we've been at these
paving,
meetings.
probably not the
I'm a
person you
real
wanna talk
expert
to.
on HVAC, so, but you can see where they've tried to, it's not just at any one school, they've tried to, put out projects where they've seen them. The list is long. If you saw the entire CIP, you'd be quite surprised at how lengthy the list is and how we have to sometimes make some decisions about do it this year, do it next year, or recommend it next year, or recommend it in a third year. It's hard. It's because in a perfect world, we'd say, okay, let's do it all. But, and this is about the number we've been going with, isn't it, Ken? The 1.5?
Yeah, is it 1.5 to 1.8 for capital or?
So last year we added the 1 million to the capital budget, so now we have 1.8. It used to be only $800,000, so we used to go about 600,000 recommendations for the year. But last year the budget committee added $1 million, so now we have 1.8. It used to be about half of this, 600. So we always leave obviously a cushion for any emergencies or anything that comes up that is not.
Yeah. I mean, we'd love to do I'm sure we'd love to do all these projects. It may end up, something comes up and you don't do it all. It's the way it goes. You can't get the units, you can't get equipment. You know, as Jack said, you're 24 months out sometimes to get pieces of equipment. So,
Yeah, I think we try to prioritize the energy savings again. There's an initiative around that, so we picked off some of the projects that would be in support of that, lighting controls. Obviously the HVAC at the middle school to finish off that school, to make sure we're 100% there with that controls. And the paving projects have been going there, so there was a need to finish those up at the schools as well. We didn't want to leave those hanging out there at certain schools when we already did some schools. So we just wanted to get that done as well.
and they have the CIP has a cutoff at anything 30,000 or more they want to see. So that's why the darkroom renovation over at the high school, the darkroom's been there a long time. Renovate it, kind of get it a little bit more modernized so that the kids that are taking some photography stuff can use that space.
Me too.
Speaking of, right, is it relevant still? Is it like an art class kind of aspect? Cause is it most,
Well, it's gonna be at the high school, so I don't know.
I was gonna ask you,
Yeah,
Still, we talked about that.
Yeah, we
right?
talked
I
about it,
missed
and
it.
quite honestly, I was poo-pooing it a little bit, thinking that's a lot of money for this.
For a few kids.
For a few
Yeah, there's
kids
only a couple
and
kids.
for an archaic form that, is now being replaced with this. And I was
Yet
told.
it isn't.
What's that?
Yet it isn't.
And yet it isn't.
Still
And
film
yet it
being
isn't. So there are a group of students who are dedicated to it, who thoroughly enjoy it and utilize it, both in arts, and there was a club as well. So it is still being utilized in pretty rough shape, because it's being utilized so much. That's the reason the room is in such rough shape. Yeah. I personally was not 100% sold, but the people that were talking to me about it were impassioned enough that, I'll tip my cap to their expertise.
Well, I'll speak for this project, Catherine, because if you look at the other projects, they're all facilities. This is the one project, in my humble opinion, that is a direct benefit to kids being able to use the space. Kids learning the fine art of darkroom photography. And we used to have one at the middle school too, and now it's a closet. So this high school, I'd like to see it put back in. You never know.
No, it's still there and it's still being
Yeah,
utilized.
But it's got curtains instead of a door, and the cabinets are in terrible shape, and the countertops are rough, and so 30,000 doesn't buy you a lot to do. It's not gonna be fancy schmancy, but it's gonna be better, and I think it's something that would directly benefit a group of kids.
Would it be possible to find out, and maybe if that's later, how many people will be using it? How many children typically would be using that when?
We'll make sure that when Carl presents this as a project, this was on his list of things, that he has that answer for sure.
But if there's a club, it's accessible to all children.
Yeah.
So like you
Right.
might not be able to get the class, but if is there a club that's
Yeah, there's a
accessible to
club.
all?
So, you know, if there's 8 kids, 10 kids, but you don't join the club, it's on the kid, but
Yeah, I'm
Possibly.
sort of curious
about
how
that too, yeah.
how frequently it's used.
What's the number, Mark?
46 kids enrolled in the 23-24 school year
Thank you,
In
sir.
the course or in the club?
in the course.
it's
So
a
when you-
course.
No, but I'm wondering, but the course, like you have to have an opening in your schedule, you know what I mean? So that's only really a small percentage.
Hey, stop,
The club.
stop, excuse me,
I'm
excuse
just
me.
curious.
Catherine has the floor.
I'm curious about the club aspect of it. Cause if that, then is there a club, is it something that all kids have access to? Do you have to have taken the course?
Are we still doing a club, Mark, or not?
As far as the club, I don't know about that with the numbers in the club. I'm just looking at the numbers from Power School currently enrolled in the 23-24 school year. We have 2 classes in the spring, 2 classes in the fall, 12, 12, 10, and 12. So 46 students are enrolled.
That
Were the spring and the fall kids the same kids?
Different kids.
It's a
Semester
semester.
Semester long class.
So it's being fully utilized considering what a small space it is. You couldn't have many more kids.
I
Well,
didn't see it in
the
total.
max
Can't
of
all
that
be in
class
there.
is 12.
Yeah, you can't all be
Yeah.
there.
So the class in 3 of the 4 sections, the class is maxed.
Perfect.
So, this class is it an art elective, a open elective?
Art.
Art elective.
It's counting for an art elective.
Do we do a similar course on digital?
So it's actually part of it.
Yeah.
It's not separate. It's the students are learning both digital and
So
traditional film photography.
That answer that question? Direct influence on kids and programming. But Mark probably can't answer questions about paving. That's not his expertise, but if it's a course, Mark can answer it.
Well, the other thing, like Ken said, is a lot of the projects that we have been focusing on the last 3 years have been projects that can generate savings. So all the HVAC systems, the boilers conversions is the one that is also trying to push just to realize some savings out of it. The lighting, the boilers, the HVAC. So hopefully in 5-6 years, we will see a full realization of those savings.
So go ahead, Mark.
Jumping forward a little bit on the rec area, and perhaps this would be something for Mr. Mensis. Was on the tours, was on the CIP, and I'm trying to, and failing to remember exactly what that all encompassed.
It's the bowl.
The middle school rec area.
It's the
School
bowl.
rec, the bowl,
Overall, trying to improve the
Recreation area, 96,500.
trying to make it so it's not a dust bowl.
the bowl, right.
It is quite literally a dust bowl, so making a place that the kids want to be out and not take the elements in as they come in from the dust bowl area. Anytime it rains, it's mud, it's a very gross area. It's also a challenge because the septic runs through that entire area as well. So we're just trying to make that an area the kids actually wanna play in when they go outside for their brief recess.
So that's another project that would directly involve
There were some
kids.
safety concerns around that too. Is that where they come around the building or something? Or
Yeah, it's that curve.
Yeah, there was some safety around the kids playing, I remember, outside and having the traffic be so close to them, so this would help with that, I believe, as well.
Were you thinking of loam or equipment or?
We talked about all sorts of different ideas and I believe that latest idea, that what that number reflects is loam, actually having grass out there. But anything to make it safe and more enjoyable for the kids because all 737 of our kids go out there every single day.
I'm thankful for that. I appreciate that you guys prioritize that.
Certainly do.
And the space that they currently have is really small, I mean, for all the kids, and they're middle school kids, I mean, they're not elementary, so.
Since
that
we,
space,
since we started the CIP, this has been a project on there. Not just Mitch as as the principal, but the principal before him and the principal before him, I think 4 principals back, have wanted to do something there to make it safer, nicer. Okay, again, we're gonna hear further presentations from probably Carl, but Ken as the chair is just bringing you this number. So Carrie, we're gonna adjust our chart, because that number shouldn't be added into the total. It's gonna show up later. It's gonna show up in the capital facilities. Unless you wanna keep it separate, we'll discuss that, how we want the worksheet to show. Anything else for Ken?
Thank you for coming.
Thanks,
this week.
Ken, appreciate you presenting. Okay. And then we have athletics with Mr. Fantasia. Come on down.
Thank you, folks. Just looking at the proposed presentation for athletics in the budget, we have some budget drivers that I certainly want to highlight and address going forward for this budget. And I had alluded to this, I believe, last year in terms of our game expense line in our budget. The officials' payments are going to be paid differently in the next year. There's a formula, and I believe you have an Appendix A that kind of outlines that formula. But just to summarize it a little bit, all officials will be paid mileage as well as their base salary now, their base pay for each game, and that's at all levels, middle school, sub-varsity, varsity. So the increase could go anywhere from $10 to $40, depending on where they're coming from, and we won't know that right away. So as I looked at that in terms of the high school and the middle school, kind of a breakdown of projected increase there, at the high school it would be about $23,000, and at the middle school it would be a little more than 12, based on the games that we would have. So that would be a budget driver in this proposal. The next 2 budget drivers really deal with replacement equipment. First, at the middle school, we are going to try to replace the wrestling mat due to its condition and its age, and I believe in Appendix B you have some pictures of the current wrestling mat that's there. The cost of getting another wrestling mat would be $10,300. And then along the lines of replacement equipment at the high school, we prioritized and we're looking at the JV soccer goals. I'm not sure if any of you have seen those, but they're pretty antiquated with the. Okay?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. No hands. I'm not driving. So the JV soccer goals, as you can see in the picture, they're being held with Velcro, and the netting is being held on by zip ties. So the priority for replacement right now would be, as I said, the middle school wrestling mat, the high school JV soccer goals, which would be $8,223. And again, just to full disclosure and transparency, we would be looking in the future at the middle school soccer goals, but to prioritize, these were the 2 that we would like to do this time. Also, this is a very good thing, and I'm happy to report that in that next budget, we will be inducting a new Hall of Fame class. We did not do it, we do it every other year, so we did not do it this year, so it's not in the budget. We would be looking to increase the activities line by $8,000. We would do the Hall of Fame ceremony in the last Thursday of September. We would coincide that with a football game and bring everybody back. It's been a great success, and one thing I should say is that we do sell tickets to that, so all the ticket sale money comes back to the district. But that would help us get that program started again, and we've already started meeting with the Hall of Fame committee to get ready to send stuff out publicly the beginning of November. And then also, lastly, we are looking to to budget for 4 different varsity assistant coaching stipends, so this would be in the stipends account. We would be looking for varsity assistant coaches in the sports of girls basketball, field hockey, boys and girls volleyball. The base salary of that varsity assistant position would be $1,700, so the total increase would be $6,800 for those 4 coaching stipends. So essentially, as you can see, current balance is $432,390.60. This proposed budget would be $502,000, $406.38. The variance would be $70,015.78. So that would be our main budget drivers. So, bless you.
Excuse me, thank you.
Thank you.
For your Hall of Fame ceremony, what goes into that 8,000? What are they spending the money on?
So what we do is we have our Hall of Fame ceremony at Atkinson Country Club. So there is there's a dinner, there's awards, we have plaques we actually get 2 plaques per. So if you were a Hall of Famer, we would give you a plaque, and we would have a plaque at the school. You could see those in the hall just outside the gym. The meals are paid for. Obviously, we have to book the room and book the meals. And then we have other ancillary awards that we give. And then when the tickets are sold, that money comes back to the district.
Thank you.
And that's approximately half, around $4,000.
I wanna say the last ceremony was right about that, yeah, right about $4,000, about half.
But the 8,000 is based on the total cost and not what comes back in.
Yes, so we have to go up front with, with Atkinson, we have to pay all that stuff up front, and then, and again, it will depend on if you induct a team, like we've inducted a couple of teams, which is more people, which is also more tickets, so it's a good.
How many people roughly are we talking?
We've had as many as 70, 75, we've had some pretty good crowds in there.
Other than being unsightly, disadvantage of using zip ties to keep the netting on the frame.
The problem is the new netting systems do not match the old goals. So I've had our grounds crew many times telling me that, you have to buy the new nets, they don't sell the old nets anymore, so you buy those. But they don't, the new nets have mechanisms where they just slide in and nice and easy, takes 5 minutes, you're done. But that's not how it is with the old nets, and so a lot of times you're kind of pushing it through and then you're trying to hold it on.
Imagine falling into a zip tie, injury that could cause too, and then I'm telling you, have you been cut by one before when they get trimmed?
I have actually.
At the force of like a high school, middle school kid running at you into it, you know what I mean, the wrong angle.
How old are the frames?
That particular frame has to be over 15, 16 years old.
Okay, so with this, we would not be looking at this as being an ongoing cost, it's a one-time. Hopefully, this particular frame that you're looking at getting would not be outdated, we wouldn't be seeing in another 10, 20 years asking for a whole new setup.
No, we put together, the varsity soccer goals are newer, and they're much different, and they have wheels and a lot easier to move around. So we're just kind of slowly and methodically trying to replace them.
Anybody else, questions for athletics? So I will entertain a motion to accept for review the proposed budget of $502,406.38.
I'll make the motion
Mike
to
makes a motion to
accept it for review.
accept for review, and a second, please. You do it, Sarah.
Second.
Any other further discussion? Remember, we're just putting this in our hopper, so to speak. And as you get a chance to look over the details of the budget reports, and have things you wanna ask, bring them back. If we need Angelo here, as we might, we'll invite him to come back if it's necessary to discuss those again. If I I hear nothing, then all those in favor of accepting the review? Looks unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Fantasia, appreciate you coming in.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you, sir.
And now we're at music, Mr. Schweiss.
All right, good evening. Thank you so much. I have three main parts to this presentation. I'm gonna start with just the general operating budget. The little narrative that I wrote up just talks about continuing over a quarter of our budget continues to be participation fees and transportation. Participation fees for all the students that we send to All-State. Next year is gonna be an All-East year as well, so we're most likely to be sending some students to a All-Eastern Festival. That increases the cost a little bit too. Last year's budget was dominated predominantly by acquiring new performance dresses. So what I did is I put on hold some new equipment and replacement equipment projects so that I could get all of those dresses into the operating budget. We're in the process of getting those finalized right now. It's a little later than I'd like it to be, but one of the things I did was put a lot of the choice into the students' hands. We got a committee together. We've reviewed a lot of the options that we have. I said, here are my guidelines, find what you'd like. So it's been a fun process. So I'm hoping to have those squared away for our concert in December. But because I had to put aside some projects last year to be able to accommodate those dresses, this year's budget represents essentially 2 years worth of replacement equipment and new equipment projects that we have going on. So and some of those projects are geared towards, actually more of those projects are geared towards trying to reduce costs down the road. Just for example, we have acoustic pianos at all of our elementary schools, fantastic, but each one requires anywhere from $400 to $600 annually in terms of tuning, just to make sure that they're in good shape for students to be able to sing to. So what I'm hoping to do is get some newer technology at the middle school and the high school. They use the electronic clavinovas, so I can give those teachers the more advanced technologies because they're doing more advanced concept with their ensembles, and then the electric clavinova that they're currently using can then be used at the elementary schools, and we no longer need to use those acoustic pianos, and therefore we're not spending so much money on piano tuning each year. Just one of the projects I'm working on. We also have increased enrollment in the high school band, which is excellent. Many of those students happen to be percussionists, which is excellent, but that is also the costliest of all of the sections. So in this budget, I've got some new percussion equipment, both mobile percussion, talking snare drums, bass drums, quints, but also because we have as many students, those of you that have been going to the games, you may have seen more folks on the front, on the sidelines, not necessarily marching. It's called the pit percussion, so I've got some of that equipment as well in there to try and increase the amount of students participating that way. Those are the main drivers for the operating budget. I can talk about the other two pieces, or we can stop and talk about the operating budget piece,
So let's
however you'd
talk
like
about
to
the-
proceed.
Proposed operating budget is down. It's essentially about the same amount of money, he's just petitioning off that same money into different areas. Using his money elsewhere. Any questions on that?
I do. So you mentioned last year you went to go purchase a lot of uniforms, correct?
Yep, dresses.
And dresses? And you put off other projects,
Correct.
and so your budget variance is $452?
So
It sounds too good to be true.
I have a much larger list of projects that I'd like to work on. Similar to the explanation that you received from the CIP earlier, there is this massive list of things that we'd like to do. Obviously, there are things that are more important and more time sensitive. Those are the things that I've got on the docket for next year. Maybe I'll have fewer things for the year after, that'd be great. but it's just a matter of, to me, it's just a matter of triage. The project last year was the new dresses, we took care of that project, now I can go back to that larger list of new projects that I'd
So you're
like to
level
move
funded this
forward.
year, basically.
I'm trying really hard to do that, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your answer and thank you for your numbers.
So why don't you go ahead with your next section here?
Sure, so this next piece is supplemental increase. We currently have a music department administrative assistant. She does fantastic work working with all the kids. She's currently on a 220-day contract. Essentially, her schedule's aligned with when the kids are in the building, a few days after they leave and a few days before they show up. When that position was created years ago, we had some elementary refresher lessons over the summer and an elementary band camp. Now we have an elementary band camp, a middle school band camp, elementary and middle school strings camp, increased enrollment in the refresher lessons for both band and orchestra. So I'm requesting that this position be increased from 220 days to 260 days, so she's able to be in the building year-round to support those increased enrollment in the summer programs. We can spend less time closing out at the end of the school year and then opening back up in the fall when she comes back, just streamline the process and be able to get her interacting with kids year-round, because we have kids in the building year-round. And based off of this year's numbers, we're looking at 88.58 as the increase.
Any questions about the additional salary?
I just want to say that the person you're speaking about does a fantastic job. And she just is able to figure stuff out before you even get the question out of your mouth. So, and she's been really good about working with an outside organization I've been involved with in the past. Just trying to level things out, and her patience, she's got the patience of a saint. Tell you that.
I also have to add, I want to add that Kurt's budget is one of those budgets that is so organized, so clean. He has everything in place. He knows everything in his budget. He plans, like he said, he has a list of things that he's planning to, he reallocates the funds where he needs them. His budget is the most immaculate budget in the entire district, so I do want to mention that because you are amazing at budgeting.
I appreciate that.
I have
There'll
a
be an educational stipend so you can train the others, that's what Maria said.
Yes. And he has taken the time to understand it and learn it, and he contacts Lisa and he contacts me, and he's in constant contact to understand and work with what he has. So I do appreciate that a lot, and I want to say it because you do an amazing job in your budget. Thank you, Kirk.
I have a question about this private lesson. Are those paid for privately? Like, is this part of your budget? Am I reading this?
No, so the private lesson runs at zero cost to the district. So I mean, we do have to, I mean, there is a line item that pays for that because we have to put that in the budget at the beginning of the school year, but all of the money is then paid for by the families that are taking private lessons, so zero cost to the district. I think I explained that correctly.
Yes, yeah, we have to put it in
After
budget.
that phrase, you better, man.
But this wonderful woman that you guys are talking about, the assistant, she's facilitating those
Correct.
private lessons, which are being paid for privately, but on campus.
Correct.
Okay.
So she's the one, I mean, just to give you a better idea of the work that she does is if we have someone interested in taking private lessons, whether it be a district family or out of district family, we have a few of those as well. We have a brochure that folks can either print off or grab when they're at the back with all of their contact information. It gets turned into her. She then takes a look at the instrument that the family is requesting and then gets them in touch with that private lesson teacher that we have on staff. And then she handles all of their timesheets and all that stuff. So she's facilitating.
So the school isn't making money off of that?
No,
Okay.
we don't
Basically,
make
it's a
money,
net.
it's a wash, it's
Okay.
a net.
I mean, the benefit to the school is that we're able to in-house provide these advanced lessons, tutoring essentially,
Yep.
For these students. So the individuals improve and the ensembles improve.
I have a question also. with the acoustic pianos that you will be taking out of service, what happens to those?
I mean, there are some families that look for those types of instruments, so I mean, the first option is really gonna just be advertise who'd like them. There tends to be a glut of those types of instruments because they are large, they are hard to manage, they do have that cost associated with them of the annual tuning. So, I mean, if we have to dispose of them, we have to dispose of them, unfortunately. But the first option is gonna be hopefully get them to a place where they're gonna be used.
Thank you.
And let's hear your third piece here.
Yeah, so the third piece is
Oh,
finalizing the uniform replacement project that I started this year with the concert dresses. I started with the concert dresses in the operating budget because they were the least expensive piece, and that is something I could absorb, so I didn't want to ask for anything extra for those. However, now we're at the marching uniforms and the performance tuxes, and those are slightly more expensive, not something I could absorb in my operating budget. I couldn't push aside those projects that I talked about another year. This is something that in conversation with the SAU, we've decided to move forward with the school board for a warrant article. We'll get more information on that as those conversations continue. Specifically, the marching band uniforms are a big need for us. They're year 27 of a 20-year cycle. The fun story was this past spring, we were able to go to Disney with our performing ensembles, and there were students marching in those uniforms in Disney that their parents marched in their own parade when they were students in Disney. Bless you. Our uniforms are old enough to have acquired a doctoral degree. So it really is a need. We've made them work for as long as we can. The students have been incredibly patient. The families have been incredibly patient. That administrative assistant I talked about has been fantastic in touching base with those kids before football games and making sure that all the pieces are still there and everything is still attached where it needs to be attached. But this is a need. We're looking at 125 uniforms, slightly more than what we have enrollment in the band, but we need to plan that way because if we size out every student for next year, that'll be great, but then what happens the year after that? So we'll buy additional sizes so that everyone has one moving forward. At around $520 per. I've gone to a couple of different companies just to get an idea of what they'll cost, and that's the rough idea. We're also looking at tuxes. We're looking at 220 tuxes. There are more because the tuxes don't just service the band, they also service the orchestra and the guitar orchestra and the chorus. We're looking at 220 at roughly 140, so that's why that's at 30,800. Those are also about 20 years old. Looking to update. We'd still like to keep the traditional style.
For the uniforms for the marching band, will they be every pun intended uniform between percussion and the rest of the musicians, or?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the
That
idea.
increases the flexibility, perfect.
Yeah, so it's my understanding that shift happened years ago when the original purchase of uniforms, we ran out. So we had to purchase new uniforms quickly. So instead of going through the process of getting the custom uniforms, we went with the black uniforms that were you buy off the rack essentially. And that's why our percussion has a different color uniform than the rest of the ensemble. It makes it challenging because then I talked about having to keep extra uniforms, so now we have to have extra of the wind and brass uniforms, but we also need to have extra of the percussion uniforms. So by having everyone have the same style uniform, we can limit the number of extras that we need to be able to make sure everyone's fitted. Perfect.
so this is gonna be up to the school board to put as a warrant article. We don't vote or recommend warrant articles, it's not our position. He's presenting this information to let you know that it's coming to the school board. Any other questions?
Same thing, you'd expect these to last a 20-year cycle?
Yes, at least 20. Hopefully not need the 27, but if we're able to maintain them, and we do try really hard to maintain them, they go out for dry cleaning every year.
Master's degree.
Buttons sewn on. I've sewn on a million buttons.
I've been this year,
Yeah, buttons.
freaking fox.
Thing on the shoulder,
They're good, we just bought some new buttons, so you'll see some uniforms that have
shiny.
the weathered buttons. Shiny
button.
buttons.
Hopefully nobody notices that.
Maybe I shouldn't have said anything.
No, now what it's like, where are the buttons?
Thank
So, the proposed budget is $129,883. That includes that and the raise for the,
No.
No,
No.
the supplement is, yeah, this is separate for
gotcha,
personnel.
gotcha,
Raises
gotcha,
personnel.
okay. So we will look for a motion to accept for review the proposed music budget of $129,883.
Make that motion.
And I'll
Mark
second.
makes a motion, Liz is seconding. Any other questions on that specific section? If not, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of accepting for review? Looks like that's unanimous, Carrie. Now, should we also accept the supplemental increase as well?
Yes,
Yes,
please.
Alright, so I'm looking for a motion to accept the proposed music supplemental increase of 42,848. The variance there, you can see the variance.
I'll make that
That's-
motion.
That's not the increase.
Right, the increase is
8,800.
8,800, yeah. So the variance 8,858 is what I just wanted you to see what the total salary would be. So 8,858. Motion?
I'll make the motion.
Liz,
Yeah,
yes?
I will.
I'll second that.
Second, Catherine. Any other discussion? If not, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, unanimous. Thank you very much.
Sue?
Yes.
So that
Right.
proposed,
In our worksheet,
it should not be in the worksheet,
no, it's not in the worksheet. You see
because
it,
that's personnel.
right, so you see it in just his music proposed.
Which is a minus 450.
Right, right.
Everything else is a warrant article and personnel. Got it.
Okay?
Don't want to skew the numbers.
Right, then that should be it. Kurt, thank you.
Thank you very
Looking
much.
forward to the performances tomorrow night.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Senior night, freshman.
Gonna be a balmy night. All right, and we now should be at the middle school. Mr. Mensis.
Would you mind if I leave last one first? John Becker is gonna speak to a couple of things that I'd like to support after he speaks to them.
Because it's you, I will allow it.
Considering there's nobody after you two.
So, Dean's gotta flip the slides. See, it causes an issue. John, when you're ready, welcome.
Thank you for having me tonight, appreciate this of everybody. So our current enrollment at the high school is 986 students, that's the October first date that we go by, all schools go by the October first date. With that, the budget drivers it's a little unique this year, but we have two major areas of budget drivers that might do a little shock value, but I think I'll be able to explain them fairly simply. The first is the vocational education and transportation. This is the CTE program that we have that goes to Salem, and we also have one that we have students going to Pinkerton. Vast majority go to Salem. This year, and we always try to figure out what our numbers are going to be for the CTE portion. That's the first one I'm gonna talk about. The CTE portion of my budget's up $18,000 this year. Okay? This being the case, we had 75 juniors be a part of CTE this year. Now, normally the number is it's right around 50. Okay, so this has been a dramatic increase in the number of students who are taking CTE. We've been pushing this number for the past couple of years. Every year I've come before the budget committee saying we're budgeting for this many, we're budgeting for this many. If we were to have a repeat of the number of juniors next year, this number would also continue to go up, okay? Because what happens is juniors take it and then seniors also take CTE for the vast majority. Okay, so 18,000 of the 94,000 is CTE, the tuition for CTE. We have no control over that. The second part is the transportation of the students to CTE. Okay, traditionally, I've never spoken about this ever before, but this year I do. This cost, because of another bus, now will run at $76,457 increase. Those students have to be transported over to Salem. That is, as far as the agreement goes, okay? So this $76,457 is a transportation cost of the students for their student program.
Increase, you would say.
And this is the increase this year. I have so that is what that is, okay? So you're doing the calculation for CTE, it's a total of $94,457, which is almost 75% of my variance. Okay? We're gonna if I can keep going, or does anyone want me to answer any questions on that one? Because it's a particular one.
And the increase in the transportation is logically
that's
because the increase in the
significant,
student in
yeah.
participation
Yeah,
on the
we gotta-
programs, so like last year, we only budgeted for 2 buses and the increase in enrollment reflected that we needed another bus, so last year the budget was overspent in the transportation line because, I mean, a year and a half before, you don't know how many kids are gonna enroll in a year and a half in the program, so.
And this is the first year I've had to put this part into it.
I have a question, because I don't have kids there yet. Are all of the CTE students required to ride the bus, or do the ones that have their own vehicles take themselves there?
So the students are required to ride the bus. To Pinkerton, the students do not get to drive a bus. They have to drive themselves and they are reimbursed.
Okay.
So they are reimbursed at a number as well. And if you were to try to do it, everybody driving themselves and being reimbursed, this number would skyrocket.
Really?
We don't have, it's a very small percentage that are really being reimbursed.
Maria, I'm sorry, what was the reason you said why this is in this budget now?
It has always been in the high school budget.
Oh, it has always,
Mhm.
okay.
It has always been.
We at this, I've never presented this or anything like
Yeah.
that. This is the first year.
The reason why it is because these are high school students. We, in my office, we don't have access to student data, so we rely on the high school to tell us how many students are gonna be in need of riding the bus. So then we can calculate the amount of buses that we need for those kids.
And one more time, I failed to write it down, I apologize, the number of students this year compared to last
The
year.
increase, we had an increase and Mark can give you the exact number, but it might be like between 18 and 20 more students, which is at 18 and 20, at 18, I believe it's $1,600 per student.
Yep.
There you go.
And they're mostly juniors, you said?
That's this junior group
So
because
they're all gonna be going
So-
next year too as seniors,
They
but they'll have
could
their
be.
cars maybe, or,
They
okay,
can't take.
but that's
They
gonna be
can't.
more expensive.
And they don't allow.
Right.
they're always they are taking the bus to the Salem CTE.
Well, and you have to have the transportation someplace, so it makes sense, it's a high school program.
I have a question, but it's not monetary. Like, can you just name some of the types of courses that are available?
HVAC, welding, electrical, health science, nursing, cosmetology.
Good for you,
Childcare.
good for you.
So these are the offerings that we have to students. And because we have the agreement not only with Salem, but with Pinkerton, we can try to offer more. Carpentry, automotive. Those are the types of programs that we're looking at.
All right, let's go on to the next section there, John.
Okay, we're gonna have some good news here as well. Replacement equipment for the high school. This is a couple things. One of the things, talking about, when we deal with safety and security, we're gonna talk about walkie-talkies. We, as a campus, we are not all, some have digital, some have analog walkie-talkies. Okay, and there's a repeater as well that functions primarily to one type, being the digital. We're gonna update so that everyone on the campus, there's 4 buildings, middle school, high school, the SAU building and the PAC will all be on the same exact walkie-talkies. Therefore, we're able to have easy communication all over the place. And you're not gonna, from one of the things is, from my office to the athletic director's office, if we're gonna talk on the radio, it's gonna be scratchy, it's gonna be difficult. We're gonna get this all on the same page. We're also gonna get a new repeater. The cost around will be $11,000. We put that into this increase with the likelihood that we are gonna be able to pay this from a grant, safety grant. So while I have to budget this into the budget for this increase, the reality is there is gonna be a grant that will likely be paying for this portion.
So if the grant goes through, which I believe we got the confirmation that the grant went through, I will remove that amount from his budget, so that will be. I will remove the amount from the budget, so his budget won't
This
have
is a
that.
one-time cost.
Correct. And what you do is you by improving the type of repeater, you are able to expand the communication of the walkie-talkies. And I mean, that's the standard, if something's going on at the middle school and you have a walkie-talkie available at the SAU, you can have instant communication throughout, okay? And that's what we're looking for.
So if there was like an emergency
Mhm.
at the middle school and the phone lines were not working, it could go to like Sandown, you'd be able to walk in?
You won't, not to
Okay,
Sandown,
I'm
it's
like,
this
how far?
camp,
Okay,
no,
that's
no.
like, okay.
It is
I was
this
like, how is that
campus.
possible? Okay.
Yeah,
But
yes.
but still, you'd be able to get to the middle school from there, yeah.
Absolutely, right now, we're on 2 different channels,
Yeah.
so say there was something going on at the middle school and Mitch wanted to contact me, he has to change the channel to go to one,
Oh,
then
yeah,
we
no.
would be told to all go to, this, that, and stuff like that, so.
That seems.
It's also just a very clear recommendation on safety.
Yeah, 100%, seems like, yeah.
Also part of this equipment, is replacement of desk and chair combinations. Many of you guys have taken the tours. The old style, you get into the desk and it kind of locks you in and you're there. Those desks have kind of gone out of date. We've been doing this replacement for a number of years, I believe 5 years, where we're going to more the table like this, 2 chairs. It allows for a number of things. One being, it's easier to create project-based learning so that you can work together in groups and stuff versus the other way. And it's just a more comfortable seating arrangement for the students to be learning. Okay? We are also updating, and I know, again, I'll rely on the tours. We're updating equipment in the cafeteria as we've gotten more high top tables, more chairs, those are getting used, the kids seem to really like them. So we're updating some of the equipment in the cafeteria, and that's been going on for a number of years. I believe this is the 3rd year we've been doing that. And we're trying to update some teachers' desks. Some of the teachers' desks are lacking the ability to lock or unlock, which is something you usually want your teacher's desk to be able to do for different things. So we're updating about 3 of them a year, and that's into this replacement. This next one, I again had to put in, might come out, so, and a number of you have taken the tours. The principal's office, if you've gone to it, it is an area, it's not a standard kind of principal's office as far as that goes. It's kind of been makeshift created, which is fine. It's very acoustically challenged, we'll say, so that you can, it's open. We're looking to, there's a proposal with facilities to create a new principal's office and therefore create this into the conference room. I don't need new principal's furniture, but a conference room would then require a conference table, new chairs, and a whiteboard. So that's really what this would be. Okay. Graduation. We have not increased graduation. My incredible, awesome assistant Patty Mangini knows the numbers, but we haven't increased the cost on graduation for a number of years. But the cost for graduation has gone up. Caps and gowns has been a cost that's increased. Services such as police, those costs have gone up, as Angelo spoke about. And general supplies of graduation have gone up. So now we have to budget that in, and it is a substantial increase. And she said, when I was talking to her, we had not increased the graduation line since she's been running it. And I believe that's a number of years, over 10, but she'll probably tell me tomorrow. Okay. General supplies, there's been a significant increase. You're dealing with the cost of paper, cost of standard supplies, so this one's gone up about $3,500, and that's the general supplies. For a number of years, because of when you had COVID, they weren't doing as much. Now people are doing more. You're utilizing those supplies more. Because of that, there is gonna be an increase. Okay. And then the final one, you're talking about new equipment at high school. And a piece of this really comes down to math classes. They're looking to create, in essence, these are what called marker board tables. And they're looking to integrate these into our education. It's almost like having a smart board as your table/desk. It goes on there, you're able to do everything, the kids can do the work on there, then they can go on to the board, creates a more interactive experience, and specifically trying to get kids engaged in math. That's why they kind of pushed this into the equipment for this one.
Sounds cool.
So that's the budget portion of my stuff.
Questions?
You also have the person.
Yeah, and then that's why I'm gonna do that afterwards. Yep.
I have a question about graduation. Do caps and gowns get put into like senior fees? Like I know kids have to pay their student dues or whatever, that's not part of that?
Caps and gowns, the reason being is the caps and gowns is a mandatory item that all students must wear for our graduation, and therefore they are not in the cost in the fees of that. You know, the fees are paying for the festivities that they do for graduation, lowers the cost for the prom tickets. It's those things, so that's why.
Just wondering.
I had a question.
Sure.
Going back to the vocational education transportation.
Yep.
I don't know if you have any information on this topic right now here, but do you have any data that says the students that sign up for a specific program, I'll say HVAC, what percent might stay with that interest going forward, like after high school?
As far as, we don't have any specific data in the post-high school information as far as that goes. What we are starting to get, because we have a number of ELO programs. Dr. Campbell's the assistant principal in charge of our ELOs, extended learning opportunities. He creates internships. We have students that are actually doing CTE and now trying to do ELOs, which gets a different type of credit. So maybe you're in HVAC. Well, you can learn HVAC, but we can also have an ELO where we have a community member work with the student on how to run the HVAC business. So we don't have exact numbers of who's going in right afterwards, but we do know we're trying to set the kids up to be able to go in and then become, the highest level they possibly can in that area.
Dr. Michael Chapman, if you ever mind, just suggest a question about data. I don't have large scale data, but as a parent, my stepson took advantage of the CTE program, specifically in automotive. And he and all of his friends who went through that program, they're all working in some sort of auto body shops or in the automotive field. And it was absolutely the answer for their ability to get through high school, get an education that really meant something for them. So just in that small picture, they're all in those fields and loving it.
I mean, so that's what I would want, right? So if we're investing in these students, obviously they want to try different avenues to see where their interest may lie. But I'd hope there's a good amount that want to continue with it.
I don't have the numbers right in front of me.
Yeah.
But also, one thing, there is no specific CTE student. There's people who are going into business administration as part of a CTE program, HVAC. There's no blueprint of this is a CTE student. The answer is any student could be a CTE student, it's an opportunity. So it's not just like, oh, this is the skill that puts you to that. It's not. We have them from all walks of life, and the success rates, they do incredibly well with those programs. So it's also one of the things as a principal of the high school, to see a student garner a skill, learn a skill, whether they are gonna go into that field or not, maybe it's as important that they realize after the fact, I don't like this, and they're not wasting a ton of time. That is also another piece to it. So it's a broader base than just going into one avenue. And there's so many different individuals, all different styles, all different types.
Yes.
I just wanted to get clarification on the current enrollment number at the high school.
Yep. So 986 is the number. So for all different purposes, on October 1st, we check it, and that's what's reported to the New Hampshire DOE. That's reported to the NHIAA, which is sports. That is the number that you would go with for the year. That's the number that it would be. Could you, on October 3rd, have a student come in? Yes, but for reporting purposes, that's the number we would go with, 986 at this time.
So that enrollment number you see, Julie, on the slide is the total district.
And nationwide, just looked it up, after enrolling in a CTE program, about 3/4 after they graduate, pursue an occupation or field in that study.
And further, some of those programs, those kids leave with certificates already in hand when they're graduating high school. So that is data that we have and could track and report out on as well.
Also, I believe there's portions in the strategic plan that have been discussed about getting this data, holding this data, and utilizing it. That's part of the strategic, 5-year plan.
And then I would say, correct me if I'm wrong, but some of that is if you go to a voc technical school, like I went to the Lawrence Voc, I had to continue with my shop in order to graduate. Where these kids do not need to continue. If you did it your junior year, you don't have to do it. You would still graduate and probably have a half a year. You have it set up where you'd only really need to have 2 or 3 classes, right, each semester. So if it wasn't such an investment for those kids, they probably wouldn't continue with it their senior year. But they seem quite invested.
And this information also has been going on because last year, the 8th grade class, many of the students went over to Salem as a portion to understand some of the programs, to see, okay, this is what's out there. So the students were able to do that as well last year.
Awesome.
On a separate note, you have a class that takes like field trips to see what other kinds of construction jobs are available that not necessarily for CTE. But my son and a lot of his friends are quite interested in other fields just because of that freshman/junior class.
That's Mr. Schoenberger's class.
It's amazing, yeah, opportunity for those kids.
Seniors in that group too.
Yeah.
That's a great look to see if there's something that kind of sparks your interest.
And you might not have seen heavy machinery and realized it's a
I didn't
full
even
job.
realize that
Yeah.
was something you could get into. I know from the allied medical field, a couple of young women that I know, they got their LNA, they were working in an LNA situation before they graduated from high school, and now we're all in nursing school, so I'm very proud that they took that next step, so it encouraged them to keep going.
So
Too bad we don't
one
have
last
it here.
question, so out of the 986 students, you said 75 juniors are in the program this year, how many seniors, do you know? I mean, just
In this
Spitball.
current
Yeah.
school, I haven't broken it down by juniors and seniors, but there's 139
altogether,
altogether in both Salem and Pinkerton.
thank you.
So 139 out of the 986,
Do we have-
15%.
Do we have any schools that do CTE here for anything?
Beg your pardon?
Come to us.
Do we have any schools that come to us?
No, this has been a discussion that's happened. To be a CTE center, there's a lot of things that go on. Mr. Pedersen would love for us to be a CTE center. I believe we only have, I think we've got 3 areas of possible interest: fire and police.
You want me to go up?
You can come up.
So-
Programs where kids come and pay to
I would love us to be a CTE center. With the regional agreements in the state is actually not allowing us to be a CTE center. But I've often said that, there's programs that we could do here that are not offered at Salem or Pinkerton. Fire, EMS, actually HVAC is not offered at Salem or Pinkerton anymore. Plumbing, theater tech. So like if we focus on those four, it's a very convoluted, hard process to become a CTE center. We've reached out numerous times to the state, but with their regional agreements, the state has actually said we are not allowed to be a CTE center.
With the competing CTE, or could we fill in the gap?
So, no, just we're not allowed to. You're not allowed to compete either, but like other districts, so for example, Rochester, Dover, Somersworth, they each have their own CTE and they sort of share kids amongst those three districts. So it can be done. There's models in the state where it can be done. It's just when we've reached out to the state to ask if we can even pursue it, they've told us, no, we are not allowed to be a CTE center.
Did they give a reason when you say not allowed, but
Because of the regional agreements in the state, because we are part of the regional agreement with Salem, Pinkerton, Wyndham, Pelham, Timberlane. And so Salem and Pinkerton are the hosts, the CTE hosts. Pelham, Wyndham, Timberlane are the sending schools. So we have to send our CTE students to those two CTE centers.
Even if Sanborn was a regional center, we couldn't send our kids to Sanborn.
Correct, because we're not part of that
That-
regional agreement. So other schools have done it. There's schools up north that have started a program, shown the state that they've shown interest in the program, and been able to be granted CTE status. So it's sort of a pipe dream of mine that we can get there eventually.
So the first step would be starting a program, like
the first step would be,
choosing one of those,
yeah,
focusing
look-
on one of those.
So that's just my own model is looking at what programs are CTE programs that are not at Salem or Pinkerton.
And plumbing is not one of those.
Plumbing is not one.
Plumbing is like one of the highest paying.
HVAC, plumbing, and I just looked at what are the jobs needed? What is Salem and Pinkerton not offering? What are other CTE centers around the state offering, but further away that we could potentially offer here? Sorry.
Very good.
Any other questions about the high school budget?
How much would it cost to start like just a plumbing?
It would cost a lot. I mean,
Yeah,
the
first you
biggest,
gotta get the program approved.
The-
Like I said, first step would to have it
No.
running.
the biggest driver is
No,
also
right.
finding the staff to
Just curious, yeah.
Find somebody to teach
that's
it.
that's the reason why other schools have not, HVAC, they have not done it because they can't find people to do it. I know Dover has a fire science program. They have the hardest time finding people to teach it. It's the finding people to teach those programs.
And the space is, is that space even something we would have?
You need major renovations, apartments and stuff, there's a lot that goes into it. I like your style, good, let's talk some more.
Yeah, he's like, actually.
I mean, the payback would be great, but getting it started.
The first hurdle is getting the state to recognize that we should have a chance. So, nice to talk about it, but
And I think we've had the discussion
Yeah.
every year that I've been here a
Yeah.
little bit and I've been like, I love it, it's a great idea, but let's not get the hopes up on that one.
okay.
There are two things that we proposed, two areas of positions. One, we've actually been running on grants for the past 2 years. We've proposed and we're able to take it out. There's a set of stipends. These are after-school and credit assistance stipends, 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We have teachers available that are there for extra help for students that are falling behind. They are in the library. One deals with general organization skills for students, which you'd be amazed how many students are lacking in general organization skills. Two, you have a math science individual, and then the third one is you are looking at social studies and English. And so they are basically tutors that we have, and we've been doing that. The fourth position we are trying to see, because we might need something through the world language or credit recovery, where students are trying to get caught up via Edgenuity. So that's why we have these four in there, and the total on those stipends is $4,400 total, so it's $1,100 each stipend. We've been running this for the past 2 years from different grants, as far as that goes, but that will not be the case next year. Okay. The other request has come about pretty apropos for the day that we are dealing with. At the high school level, we are, and I've reached out to principals throughout the state, most schools have some level of campus security, where you have individuals who are on campus. These are not individuals who would be carrying anything. They are individuals staffed by the school that are there for general security. You would have them, we have a massive area of parking lot. You have an area throughout the school. These individuals rotate the school and are general security within the school. Okay, again, not police force or anything like that. Okay, at the high school level, it is our belief that we need this security, that it's gonna be most beneficial for the students and the safety of the students. Now, at the high school level, we believe that 2 are what is required. But the reason Mitch has kind of let me go first, I was the one who was told to present this, but we believe that these 2 positions should be campus-wide security. That would be here during the day, that would be able to be in the middle school, PAC, the high school, and even throughout the SAU if necessary, those 2 positions, okay? Those are the 2 that we would be presenting and feel that is something to suit, that needs to be strongly considered as we talk about safety and security in a campus as large as ours that we don't have at this current time.
What would their role be? Would it be calling the police? Would it be calling administration? Would they be enforcing consequences for kids, or they just be wandering around?
So they're not gonna enforce consequences for kids. If a situation comes about, they absolutely are gonna go for it, contact administration. Administration might say, I need you to go check this out, go look here, go and we need to have the student come with us. General supervision of the campus as well. These individuals are going to do that. They're not gonna give any consequences. They would be in contact with the administration so that if the police had to be contacted, absolutely, that would be something that they would be able to do. But they would be in contact with the administration at all different levels. As I said, that's what you're really dealing with, and they would be throughout the entire area. We're just proposing it at the high school level.
Did there used to be an officer that was on campus?
Yeah,
SRO.
Would they be working with the SRO?
They would work with us and we work with the SRO.
Okay.
Okay, that there would be no connection to these type of positions versus there would be to the police. Okay, if you look at a school like Pinkerton, they have, I believe, 7 different individuals of security that separate from SROs or marshals or any of that nature. We have, at the campus-wide level, we have none.
Is there an SRO between the middle school and high school all the time?
Not currently.
Or is it housed in just the high school?
Is there a SRO at the high school all the time?
Not currently.
Typically.
Other background for this, folks, people on this board to consider is that we've also talked this through at the subcommittee of the board for safety. It has the support of the folks that are there. To your question, it is not only a preventive piece. I mean, these are people that would have an acute focus on things like doors and windows and access points to the school. They would have the charge of the blind spots that are currently on campus that they can get on. They are a direct line, the administration. I appreciate, John, what you were talking about is like the interaction with families and kids is still primarily with the school administrators. So these people are not only preventative, but they're also more eyes and ears to call in terms of a series of crises that occur, where you need to be able to have a systems of organized response. It's a common practice amongst other districts that have campuses that are open. We don't necessarily have an open campus in the traditional sense where kids are allowed to necessarily come and go. But we have a campus by practical functioning, it is open, if that makes sense. It is a way for us to be able to maybe more closely scrutinize the things that are happening on campus.
What kind of qualifications would you look for in a person that was filling this role?
It's not gonna necessarily be someone with a law enforcement background at all. They're gonna have to have some experience with kids, but really these are people who are gonna be operating systems. Like they're gonna be following the directions of these folks here.
Give you an example of something now I do every day, but what I do is after I wave to everybody for traffic and meet and greet and say hi to people. Alright, what then I do is I sweep the building and I go to every single door and make sure it's locked and closed, every single door within there. That, you know, while that's good, that's not necessarily something you want the principal doing every single day, probably, but we make sure that happens every day for that purpose. You know, so I can tell you that's going on every single day to make sure it's secured. These individuals would be there not every single day, every single period of every single day to check whether it's the middle school, whether it's the high school, the PAC, that, you know, these secured areas are closed.
So I'm thinking also from like a budget position, what is needed for these like golf carts or walkie-talkies, like
Walkie-talkies. Golf carts, to be honest with you, you want people walking around,
I'm
like,
just thinking
you know.
Pinkerton or even me teaching in Bedford, our guys have golf carts, they're constantly out, so I don't know.
Yeah.
What else is needed for two people to?
Walkie-talkies, you know, that would be the biggest thing is walkie-talkies, cause I mean, you know, I'd want them walking the parking lot because you don't miss as much if you're walking by it. You know, that's, you want them actively engaged, you want individuals looking around, seeing what's going, seeing what's normal and not. It can't, you know, and I completely understand, it can't be, I'm moving as fast to get this done. It has to be, this is done.
Purposeful.
But also I might wanna get to that place as fast as possible. I'm just thinking from both perspectives.
If need be, we run.
And then
And I'm getting old.
for a budget aspect, I'm also looking at $50,000 for somebody that might not have a degree in law enforcement, might have zero degree. They're not gonna have a weapon, they're not going to be directly working with the students or directly working with the families, but they're gonna walk around and monitor, kind of like the video systems we have, directly monitor things and the teach. But I mean, it's already $8,000 more than the music person's gonna get or starting teachers are gonna be making, so yeah, it's a lot of money
You know, which as I said.
to not directly, you know.
Teacher.
Yeah, more than a teacher,
More than a-
to maybe be like, yeah. I'm not necessarily qualified to work with kids or families or, yeah.
But they will be interacting with kids. They will, interactions with kids, they just won't be determined in their consequences.
Will there be
And are they gonna be
training for
wearing
them?
uniforms, so like the kids like see them as like police/security figures, cause that like feelings that high schools are, you know, closely linked to feeling like prisons is not the best feeling for kids to have.
No, what
So
I,
I'm
most
just curious.
places, you'll get them, you'll
I
get
don't
them
know,
a collared
most-
shirt, collared
Okay.
Timberlane shirt would be a more appropriate thing. You don't want, this should not be seen as an adversarial
Okay.
relationship, this should be a resource for security. And Mitch can talk about his feelings on that afterwards.
Go ahead, Liz.
Will they be trained and will there be resources allocated for their training on how to diffuse a situation like comm training, Alice, all of that?
So we would want them trained exactly the same way as a staff member for
Okay.
those type of things. That's a great question, yeah. We want them trained because they're on campus and they need to be able to respond in the way that we would want all other staff members to respond. Whether, you know, teacher, admin, admin assistant, they've all been trained, it should be the same exact way.
Would you be looking for different types of human development courses that they may have had so they understand where middle school and high school kids are coming from? Just if they're gonna be interacting with them, I think that would be an important aspect of what you're looking for.
One of the things that, and on that note, we don't want, it's not this, we're gonna hire you and turn you loose, we're gonna hire you and as the admin, we wanna talk to you, here's our expectations, here's how this goes, how did this interaction go? It's also ongoing, how the person works with a kid, hey, come with me, let's help you out, let's calm you down, give you a walk, and then bring you to here, works a heck of a lot better than you're coming with me. So.
Any other questions for John? If not, then let's entertain to put this budget on our chart. So I'm looking for a motion for this operating budget at, where are we? 892, 2060? Is that where we're at? I'm gonna make that motion.
I'll make the
Set for
motion
review.
to accept the Timberlane High School budget for review of $892,020.60.
I'll second that.
Seconding, any other questions? Again, peruse this, think through it. We need to ask John back, we will, as we get closer to the end. If not, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? It's unanimous. So what else that we need to accept here? Personnel request of,
The 4 stipends and the 2 positions.
so the 4 stipends and the 2 positions, so what I heard was 100,000 for the 2
That's
positions.
100,000 for salaries, so you also have to include the fringe, which is about $35,000 per each. The fringe, the benefits,
And the stipends.
35,000.
Stipends and we've got
Probably $135,000 for these 2 positions.
So I thought it was 35 per, so 35 total, because they're talking about 2 positions.
I'm sorry, yeah, 35 for both.
Okay,
So the benefits is about 35% each, so it's
okay,
$16,000.
yep, 135, yep, with Benny.
So 135 with Benny's and the stipend positions of 4,400. So anyone wanna make that motion to accept for review or other discussion?
Motion to accept for review the stipended positions of 4,400 and the 2 security positions at 50.
A second?
A second.
Trustees are seconding. Any other discussion on that? Again, we can discuss it more. It's not over. Just getting it on the board. Okay, all those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 opposed? Abstaining?
Did I? I wanna abstain.
You
Did I
abstain?
not vote for the yes? Can I be yes?
You wanna come back and,
Yes, I'm coming to
it's all right with everybody?
Only because I truly trust this man's insight.
All we're doing is, we're not approving
No,
the
I'm telling
money.
you, because I do, I think it's
just-
shockingly a lot of money for somebody that might not necessarily be qualified to educate children, when we're not paying our teachers that much necessarily.
But it's a
And
starting
this-
point for
but
discussion,
For safety wise, I think that he knows what his school needs. It's well thought out what he does, so. That's, so I'm a yes.
900. Thank you, John. Now,
Thanks, John.
Mitch,
Unless he's.
We saved the best for last.
If you don't mind, I was actually just wanna chime in quickly as the reason they went first about this particular topic. I hear what you're saying 100% about being very sensitive to what our teachers are being paid versus this potential position. I don't think anyone would doubt, especially in the times we're in, the need for safety for our staff, students, everybody around the building and campus to feel secure. So I would just throw in my 2 cents also to the value to that, but being very sensitive to what our first year teachers are making. So I appreciate that John did the legwork to get that information, to get also as Mr. Sherman said, to put something on the board for discussion. But the value for having some extra security measures around our campus can't be undervalued. Even in light of what happened in the ongoing situation in Maine that we spoke about earlier. Placer Police was awesome in having some extra presence around the building today for the high school, middle school, and the PAC. Those things go a long way. And Justin, you can caution me if I talk too freely about it, but not having an SRO at this time is challenging. So, Placer Police have been wonderful about their extra presence, but having these kind of, having this kind of position between the entire area would make people feel a lot better. So, just wanted to share my 2 cents about that. So as far as the budget, actually, I wanna start with 2 shout outs too, as a quick thank you. As you mentioned, we had our parent teacher conferences the other night, so shout out to the parents who went there. I appreciate you guys both coming. If you have any feedback on the process, always open to feedback, so feel free anytime. And I also have it's a shout out, but it's really an advance apology because next year's budget, there's a strong chance it's not gonna be as clean as it is this year. For anyone who knows Miss Dinah Elwell, Ms. Sherman knows Ms. Elwell. She's been the unofficial principal for the building for the last couple decades. She's our bookkeeper, and she's gonna be retiring after this year. It's gonna be a huge loss for us, and she has really been keeping this place together way more than the budget. But for the budget committee to know that this person will be retiring at the end of the year, she's been doing incredible work for our district, but especially the middle school. So, irreplaceable. As far as my actual budget drivers, keeping things very simple in the middle school this year. As you can see with the info access fees, that's the very much the primary driver of the budget. And also a unique one because I believe I'll require school board approval because it's a 3-year term for a program called IXL. It's a math program that enables teachers to very quickly, this is a math classroom right now, I can differentiate my lesson and give different problems to every one of you very quickly. So it's an invaluable program that we've been using for years and our use of it has come up. So it was previously under a 3-year deal. They came back to us with a new price that was, I thought, out of this world. This one's still being rather high, but we were able to negotiate it down to the original terms. So it is $24,000 for 3 years. So while the overall variance is $37,000, $24,000 of that in the initial year, if approved, would be good for 3 years. So that is the biggest driver, over 65% of this variance. Outside of that, there's also reflex and fracs. Again, not just because of my past in math teaching, but we are putting a lot of energies into intervention in math to continue to help support our kids who might be struggling in that area. We want to continue to improve their skills and their overall performance. So IXL, 3-year term, reflex and fracs of the same idea. History Alive naturally is a information access fee for social studies purposes primarily. And then the other 2 items are supplies and co-curricular activities such as we're doing some more things with the Model Rocket activity, which actually they did their first launch today. It was very cool. And as a quick aside, a member in this room who's not to be named partook in it, not only as a photographer, but when I launched my rocket that was called Lunch Money, if any student grabbed my rocket as it parachuted down, they get to have lunch with their friends. And one of the adults who was also taking the photographs heard about free lunch and jumped in with the kids to try and catch the rocket. I left unscathed as nobody caught it, but I'm certainly gonna get the group together to have a little snack with them because they were so excited about the learning how rockets work. A gentleman from Connecticut came 2 hours away to do this project with us, and we're hoping to do it again in the springtime. So some of these for things like the Model Rocket activity and also Robotics Club, which is really starting to take root as our couple teachers get involved and they're getting more teachers who want to help with this growing program. I'll speak to in a moment the hope to get a couple of stipends for those people as well. We like to treat them as coaches, similar to a sports team. Because again, we're trying to get away from just relying and hoping that grant funding comes through, but actually building the budget as a reliable source for these programs to continue to exist. And then the third piece is field trip transportation. Again, addition is simple robotics competition buses, and bus fees have been increasing, but we're gonna continue some programs like kids going to Newcastle, and we just started charging more money to go to some of these venues. That's the simple things for my drivers. And one other thing I'd like to speak to is, because you referenced the rec area, that has been on the CIP for as long as I've ever known. My real hope is that we wouldn't spend $96,000 to improve that area. We have some community members that are amazing, And I've had people reach out and say, hey, if there's some energy that's put into this project, we'd like to help. So I wouldn't like to see all that money go to that. I'd like to see support from the district to make that area and to improve it. But I'd love to see some parents in our community who have already offered help to be a joint venture to make that area awesome. So I don't know how that necessarily works, but just to share feedback that we have people who are ready and willing to donate their time, energy, and in some cases, very expensive equipment to help make that area better for our kids. That's my whole scoop.
Well, I think it's important, Mitch, that project has finally worked its way up that really, really long list. And although you had support at the CIP level for a long time for those things, maybe 96 isn't what you need, but we have to start, you gotta start, it's a ballpark number,
Totally agree.
it's a budget, it ebbs and flows. Okay, questions for Mitch about anything?
So I had one. Just regarding this, the recreation, or, improving that area out there. And maybe you guys at CIP have this information, do you have a breakdown of what you're gonna do in those costs of what that 96,000 is made up
Carl will
of?
have that, Julie.
You do?
When he presents, because it's a facilities project,
Okay.
he'll have that all.
Okay.
I mean, it's happening at Mitch's building, but it's not in his budget, it's in this capital budget. So when Carl comes and presents, ask that question, it's a good question already, because we bounced it around numbers of times.
Alrighty.
Anybody else? Just go ahead, Liz.
The robotics, I'm really excited to see that that's starting to take shape at the
It is.
middle school. Thank you.
We started with one teacher and then another teacher was interested, now a third and a fourth. And the kids are also growing in their excitement and want to be a part of it.
And does this flip into the high school at all? Cause do they have a robotics club? Okay.
Trying to grow up that program, get them ready for it.
My husband would be very excited, 'cause that's what his doctorate is in.
There's a volunteer form, we'd love to have them fill it out.
That and virtual reality.
Anything else for Mitch?
One last comment I could share, if that's all right.
Sure.
Just to say that I'm very sensitive to the budget as a parent, taxpayer, employee. And I think that we've all worked very hard to have very reasonable budgets because as many people in this room understand, I'm hopeful that there's a ton of effort and energy put into, I don't want to speak out of turn, but just getting an awesome contract for our staff because budget is certainly one animal, but I know there's a lot of work being put forward to get a solid contract for our staff because they are the lifeblood also of who's teaching our kids. So I think that everyone's had a really purposeful look at their budgets to figure out, as everyone said, they have different projects in mind, but prioritizing them as like, what do we need now? And where our priorities lie this time.
Anybody? If not, then I'll accept a motion to put on our
I will make that motion.
review. 311, let's just round it off, $312,000. Round numbers.
I'll make that motion, so.
Second.
Just for simplicity's sake, instead of reading the 37 cents.
Do you want me to speak to the budget personnel request part, or I already mentioned it, but I could do it specifically if you'd like.
Go ahead if you want to. Well, let me take the vote here.
Sure.
All in favor? It's unanimous, then go ahead.
Sure. So the budget personnel request form is for the two coaching positions, as I mentioned, be for 2 full-time coaches, 2,000 each, for a total of 4,000. That'd be multiple times per week for the entire school year. And they're going to competitions on Saturdays for entire days, so I'm treating them like coaches of a sport.
So this is a budget request, you see that for personnel, you see that? So we'll entertain,
Absolutely, I'll make that motion.
and Liz seconds, any other discussion on that? Put that in on the board, All in favor? Opposed? All set, unanimous. That's Mitch.
Thank you, sir.
We may call you back at any time.
I'm not too far away.
I get you. Okay, pretty good, 8:46. Any other business to come before us tonight? If not, we're looking at Thursday, the 9th, is that our next meeting? Okay. Let us know if you have questions or concerns.
So can we just talk more about these dates?
Sure.
Meaning that, so on the 9th, we will go to our final 3 or 4 presentations?
Actually, we have one, so yes, that is correct, but last meeting I spoke to Sue because the town of Plasto on the 9th, they have a meeting to discuss the wetlands of the town. Since we have so many wetlands around all of our campus, Carl needs to go to that meeting because we got served with the notice that we needed to attend. So his budget presentation was that night. So he requested if we can do it the following night, just his presentation.
Following night?
The following week.
The following meeting.
The 21st.
On the 21st, yes.
That's fine, so we can figure that out. So we will do some presentations on the 9th, Carl, on the 21st. But I'm assuming the 21st is where Carrie's now gonna summarize all of the budgets. This is our last.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the
it's-
last presentation,
yeah.
and I have been putting together everything, all the budgets, so I have a running.
So we're gonna have the 21st, the 7th, and the 11th to really
Need
do.
to.
Yep.
We put all those dates in.
Yep.
Didn't want it, I wanted you to see them up front.
Yep.
If we need them, we don't need them, there's no hurry. No hurry. We got time, so.
So by Thursday, December 7th, I will definitely will have the consolidated preliminary budget.
So
Even
so
by
we
the
need-
21st, when Carl presents, I probably have a preliminary consolidated budget.
I'm not, I don't see any reason to rush. I don't want to wait till, I don't wanna wait till the last date either, but things come up. This is what happened with Carl, being asked to go to a meeting. I wanna have a little motion, a little ability to move if we have to. Are you going on a trip and you need to go?
No,
Oh,
no. I just wanna clarify,
these are the dates, put these on your calendar.
no, I know these are the dates, but what's gonna happen at each one?
Well, hopefully we're gonna start deliberating, and if you have suggestions for cuts or other questions, they need time to go back, so. Right?
Got it.
Would it be helpful if I made something like this with the personnel request form so that
Sure.
you have that tally too? Okay, yeah.
Yep, be great.
For the personnel, if you don't mind my asking, the salary, if it's like the 50,000 plus what the benefits would
Uh-huh,
be,
sure.
separated out, just so that we can see it.
But we have different rates of range.
Right.
The rule of thumb is we do 35%
Right.
on top of the salary, so we can do a
It's a
column with the 35% on
figure.
total.
Well,
But you gotta have something.
I need something to look at, cause I'll forget.
Yes, no, we can definitely add a column there.
And Mrs. Sherman, I will be at that same meeting as Carl on the 9th, because we have a lot of acreage
Yeah.
with wetlands.
Yes. Okay. All right, if nothing else, then we're adjourning at 8:50. Thank you very much. Bye, Timberlane.